Welcome back, everybody, for day one of your part 2 descriptive statistics unit. For today's lesson, all you're going to need is your note packet along with a writing utensil. Okay, so for today, we are again on day one, and you're going to need your note packet. Our goal for today, given different statistical studies, you will be able to describe it as qualitative or quantitative, univariate or bivariate, biased or unbiased. All right, so kind of 3 different types of vocabulary we're going to be working with today. So let's jump right into it. All right, so different types of data. We have 2 different types of data. We have qualitative and quantitative. So let's take a look at qualitative first. Now, if you look at the very first few letters of qualitative, it looks like the word quality. And if you can remember that, you're going to do pretty good. So quality or qualitative data is data that does not count or measure. So it's a data set that does not count or measure. So an example of that would be hair color or favorite food, because your answers to hair color will be brown, yellow, red, black. Those are all qualities. They are not measured. All right, another way that you could describe qualitative data would be as categorical data. So it's data that can be clumped together in categories. Your second type of data is quantitative data. So quantitative looks like the word quantity. So quantitative data is a data set that counts or measures. So a data set that counts and measures. So examples of that would be, for instance, your weight. Or if somebody asked you, how many times have you visited the zoo? Okay, that would be an type of quantitative data. Now, another word that we can use for quantitative would be numerical data, because all of your data points would be numbers. All right, so let's go ahead. Now that we know the difference between qualitative and quantitative, let's take a look at some examples. All right, so we are going to determine if the data listed is quantitative or qualitative. Okay, so number 1, the cost of buying antique books. So we're talking about the cost. So that would be $100, $90, $50, and those are all numbers, which is numerical, so that would be quantitative data. So we're going to go ahead and write quantitative for number 1. Now, if we take a look at number 2, people's favorite ice cream flavor. So if you were to ask a person what their favorite ice cream flavor would be, it would be chocolate, vanilla, cookie dough, chocolate mint. Okay, those are all categories, which means it's going to be qualitative data. So we're going to write down qualitative. Number 3, types of berries that the plants in a forest produce. So raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, those again are going to be qualities or categorical, so that's going to be qualitative data. Okay, next up, number 4, grades from a math test. Okay, so your grades on a math test would be 90%, 80%, 75%. Those are all numbers, which means we are working with quantitative data. Okay, go ahead and think about number 5, eye color. Okay, if you're thinking qualitative, you are correct. Okay, and number 6, the length of the standing long jump. Okay, we're talking about length. That's going to be a measure, so it's something that we're measuring, which means it is quantitative. Now we can also look at data on our histograms. So let's take a look at our first example. So number 7, if we take a look at our histogram, we see we have frequency, And down at the bottom, we have age. So if I take a look here, this is the data that I'm looking at, age. So think about age. Is age a number or a quality? If you're thinking number, you're correct. So this is going to be a quantitative study. And then we go look at number 8. So if we take a look at our dependent variables down at the bottom, we have green, red, yellow, blue, orange, and brown. If I take a look, those are all categories, okay, which means that this is going to be qualitative data. All right, so that's how we are going to distinguish between quantitative and qualitative. And that's the first part of today's lesson. All right, so let's move on to part 2 for today. And that is going to be your different types of experiments, studies, and data collection. So we're going to take a look now at the difference between univariate data and bivariate data. So let's take a look at univariate first. So if you take a look at the first 3 letters of univariate, it's UNI. All right, which typically reminds us of the word one, or uno in Spanish. So it is one. So that means univariate data is going to be an experiment or study that analyzes one type of data. Okay, now if we look at bivariate data, we see it has the first 2 letters bi, which means 2. So bivariate data is going to be an experiment or study that analyzes and compares 2 types of data. So univariate 1, bivariate 2. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's take a look at a few different experiments and studies and determine if the problem deals with univariate or bivariate data. Number 9, determine if the number of hours a student studies will improve his or her final examination scores. So let's go through and determine, well, how many different things are we analyzing? Determine if the number of hours a student studies, so number of hours, will improve his or her final examination scores. And there's scores. So we're comparing number of hours and scores. That's 2 pieces of data. So this is going to be your bivariate data. All right, let's take a look at number 10. A car's weight and its miles per gallon rating. So let's take a look. How many things are we studying here? Well, we have a car's weight and we have the miles per gallon. So that's 2 different pieces of data, which means this is also bivariate data. Number 11, a student's grade in mathematics. Well, if we take a look here, it's only 1 piece of data, a student's grade. So this is going to be univariate data. All right, let's go ahead. I'd like you to hit pause and try 12, 13, and 14 on your own. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. So we have bivariate, bivariate, and univariate. Okay, the last part for today's lesson is going to be different ways that we can collect our data. So collecting data, when we collect data for a survey, we want our data to be a good estimate for the entire population. All right, so we can explain the way we collect data in 2 different ways. It can be biased or it can be unbiased. All right, when something is biased, that means when the data was collected, it was influenced by something. When the data was collected, it was influenced by something. So that means the results are inaccurate. Our example here. The study of how many people can walk a balance beam is conducted with students from a gymnastics class. Well, if you think about that, you're only testing people from a gymnastics class. Well, most people in a gymnastics class are taught how to walk on a balance beam. But can the general population walk a balance beam? Probably not. So your results are being influenced by the fact that they're in a gymnastics class. So your results for the total population are going to be inaccurate. So biased is when we have a bad sample of data. So our data it's not good, it's bad. All right, so if something is biased, that means when the data was obtained, it was not influenced by anything that may have an effect on the outcome. When the data obtained has not been influenced by anything that may affect the outcome. So an example here, asking people leaving a large grocery store what their favorite brand of soda is. So if they're leaving a grocery store, well, that's all different types of people. Everyone has to go to the grocery store. So to ask them what their favorite brand of soda is, you don't know what the people are going to say. So that's going to be a good study. It's unbiased. All right, so let's go ahead and let's try looking at a few different examples together and to determine if each question is biased or unbiased. So in number 15, the NFL wants to find the most liked football team. They ask spectators leaving a Buffalo Bills game who their favorite football team is. So is this going to be biased or unbiased? Well, if you're asking spectators leaving a Buffalo Bills game, well, if they're leaving a Buffalo Bills game, that means they must like the Buffalo Bills, and they are probably going to choose the Buffalo Bills as their favorite team. So this is going to be biased because we already know what the answer for most of those people is going to be. All right, let's take a look now at number 16. Amherst High School wants to find out the favorite ice cream flavor of the school. They ask every 5th person that enters the school what their favorite ice cream flavor is. Well, if they're asking every 5th person, do they know ahead of time, or are those people being influenced by anything before they say what their favorite ice cream flavor is? No. So this is a good study. So it would be unbiased. So I'd like you to go ahead and hit pause and write down your answers for number 17 and 18. Okay, if you wrote down biased and biased, you are correct. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our goal for today, given different statistical studies, you will be able to describe it as qualitative or quantitative, univariate or bivariate, biased or unbiased. Nice job, everyone. I'll see you in class.